Dun. Hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of the Schlopshow. We're going to be discussing common vulnerabilities and exposures, also known as CVEs. I'm going to be talking to my guest, Hamy. We'll be discussing how to look for CVEs, where to look for CVEs, what applications to look at to find CVEs. Hope you enjoy.
All right, so my name is Hamid Kohi. I'm mostly known as Hamy, and I prefer to be called Hamy.
Mm.
I'm an Afghan Canadian vulnerability researcher, bug hunter, and programmer. It's been around 3 years that I've been performing research in various fields of cybersecurity. And as a result, I have received 5 CVEs from MITRE
Mhm.
and 2 from Apache, and a few more that are upcoming, but I'm not at liberty to disclose them yet.
Okay.
Some of the interesting CVEs I have received are CVE 2024 57601, and the same numbers 57602 and 57605.
And so what are those what are those CVEs?
Yeah, the 601 is stored accesses
Mhm.
and easy appointments.
I was looking into your easy appointment vulnerabilities. So your first CVE, at least on your website, was something to do with password brute force on easy appointments or easy booking, right? Easy bookkeeping. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a pretty basic, just like brute force where they didn't have any rate limiting, and you were just able to use like Hydra or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the the stored cross-site scripting?
Well, the cross-site scripting was more interesting because you could
Mm.
actually access document.cookie, which stores cookies for every user. So you were able to steal them and escalate your privilege from editor user to
Okay,
administrator user.
I see. And that was just like could you just explain what cross-site scripting is like real quick?
Well, cross-site scripting occurs when you can execute JavaScript on
Mhm.
the web browser.
Yeah.
Usually, cross-site scripting attacks are client-side. They're called client-side because you can attack users with them directly.
Yeah.
So you can exploit it by using JavaScript, sometimes scripts, and sometimes inline JavaScript. So
Hmm.
inline JavaScript is something that you see very commonly being used in payloads, one-line payloads, things like that. But then you also have blind accesses that use scripts. They load malicious scripts and execute it on user's browser, steal cookies, or do some other malicious activities.
And what was the last CV you were talking about, or the third one?
It was 57605 is stored accesses and fuel CMS.
Okay. And how is that one different from the other XSS?
I think for fuel CMS, I wasn't able to access the document.cookie. So I
Okay.
wasn't able to steal cookies with it, but I was able to steal the IP address, I think, and a few other. I could, for example, annoy users or other administrators,
Mm-hmm.
but the vulnerability exists, you just can't escalate it.
Ah,
This
okay.
is one of those. So the severity decreases, but the vulnerability is still there. Somebody just has to come up with a better, filter bypass to escalate it. But I wasn't able to, so it
Okay.
remains as is.
Do you have any other CVEs that you want to talk to, or should we move on?
Well, there is one
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of interesting. It reminds me of CTFs, and sometimes when we look at CTFs that require brute forcing,
Mm-hmm.
and there is some type of requirement to sleep between our requests or time them out, we often question that this might not be realistic or this doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
it does happen. For example, one of the brute force vulnerabilities that I had found had some sort of rate limiting on the server where the server was throwing error codes like 429. That's
Mm-hmm.
for rate limiting. And you could bypass it simply by sleeping. Like you could send 8 passwords, then sleep for 10 seconds, send
Okay.
another 8 passwords, and keep on doing it.
There was also the two-factor authentication for easy bookkeeping. What was that about?
That was simple brute forcing. Like the problem was that there was no rate limiting at all in
Okay.
easy book keeping. They just they said I think that you need to install, every developer has to install separate protections like
Mm-hmm.
an IP blocker or something like that. I think they said IP ban. Just install IP ban and the problem is solved.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a flawed misconception people
Mm-hmm.
have, because developers shouldn't expect other developers to take security seriously. I don't do that. I have developed web apps and I don't rely on people for security. I implement security in the app itself.
Yeah, you don't want to have reliance on external applications for security in your application, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially vulnerabilities like brute force
Mm-hmm.
or XSS. You can solve them with other things. For example, Cloudflare can block XSS, but
Yeah.
you shouldn't rely on Cloudflare to block XSS. You must block them on site with CSP rules and other protections.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree with you. I was looking into Mission Cyber Sentinel, which is basically like kind of. Oh, like, could you explain a little bit? So you want to discover vulnerabilities, and is this a team of people, or is it just you and like maybe a few others, or like what is your like mission statement there with Mission Cyber Sentinel?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because this was also on the list of the things that I want to talk about.
Okay.
It's one of my biggest achievements. I would say a team achievement. It's
Mm-hmm.
an initiative that I have led. The members are Alastair Gorniak
Mm-hmm.
and Lucas Smith.
Okay.
We were able to identify vulnerabilities and widely used open source web apps that affect a combined total of over 376,000 websites
Okay.
and approximately 37 million users globally. So we went after the targets that had a big impact, and we calculate this impact by how many people are actively
Yeah.
using XYZ software.
Mm-hmm. And so I was looking into some of the applications that you discovered vulnerabilities on, and I know that you're gonna do a demonstration for is it VV Web? Is that how you pronounce the project? The open source.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's VV Web, and I did
Mm-hmm.
discover around 8 vulnerabilities there.
Okay.
Two of them was brute force, so I don't think they really need to be demonstrated because they were simple brute force attacks. So
Okay.
it's easy to find them. Just try the login. But the other vulnerabilities that I had found, such as excesses, and authenticated code execution that allowed remote command execution on the server. Those are some of the things that I want to cover.
And so, how can you contribute to Mission Cyber Sentinel? Like, if you were just like a developer, or if you're just somebody who's getting interested in cybersecurity, what can they do?
Well, it's very simple. You can choose a target, any target that has at least over 100 users,
Mhm.
and then you can either collaborate with us or you can find a vulnerability on it and say, I want to become part of Mission Cyber Sentinel by
Mhm.
contributing using this vulnerability that affects a few thousand users, for example.
Yeah.
And then we will add your name and the vulnerability you have found and show that you have contributed to our mission to secure this many websites or this many users globally.
Yeah.
So it's quite easy. There is no other requirements for it. If you have already found a vulnerability, it's quite easy to join. But if you haven't, then there are some requirements,
Mhm.
like you need to be able to at least have completed courses like certified penetration testing
Mhm.
specialist or certified bug bounty hunter from Hack the Box.
Yeah. So now that
Yeah,
you've
so
like talked about CPTS, I know that you have that certification, and I know that a lot of people are actually very interested in, I guess, like an opinion on that kind of that certification by Hack the Box. I don't want you to like divulge any information about the test or anything like that, but I just was curious on your opinion on that certification.
Well, yeah, the certification is great. I'm not certified as an exam, passing the exam, but
Okay.
I did complete the course. So the exam is something that's upcoming this year, at least I think after August or something.
Okay.
But the course itself is really great. And I have heard great things about the exam. But here's the thing, I had once bought the course material for offensive security certified professional.
Mm,
And when I compare the course material to CPTS, there's a lot that's missing from OSCP.
yeah.
And I know that OSCP is a heavyweight certification. Everyone respects it. But in terms of material, content, and knowledge, CPTS is the best. The reason that I require this coursework from people who want to collaborate with us is because this actually teach you how to think like a hacker,
Hmm.
how to solve problems, how to sit there and solve problems the right way, not just try harder or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. And just to be like clear for anybody listening, like we don't get paid by Hack the Box or anything to say this. It's just our opinion, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is just
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Like I'm not a mod at Hack the Box. I'm not a mod at
yeah, we
any
don't have any
other
relation,
platform.
you know,
Yeah,
but yeah, they have a good course, and it's starting to gain reputation over time, so it's good. You also have the certified red team operator. Did you finish? Do you have the certification for that, or did you just finish the course?
the CPTS and CRTO are just courseworks, but
Okay,
VHL and VHL Advanced Plus they are coursework plus exams.
okay.
I did those a long time ago, I think in 2022. And CRTO and CPTS are just courseworks. I did the coursework, learned a lot. Then I
Hmm.
jumped into CV hunting, so I didn't go back to give the exam a try.
Okay.
But CRTO is quite good, especially if you're trying to use C2 or command and control servers like
Okay.
Cobalt Strike for hacking, for post exploitation,
Hmm.
hacking networks, Active Directory, things like that.
Yeah, and this kind of brings me on to you did some malware analysis. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you want to actually talk about this.
No, I do want to talk
You
about
do
it.
want to talk about it? Okay, because I was looking into how you had done malware analysis on the on Afghani hacker groups, and could have correlation allegedly potentially
Yeah.
to the Taliban and things like that. So I was just curious on your opinion on that. Like you were able to identify these like behavioral things with their malware because you could read the language, right? Or you understand the languages that come from
Yeah.
that region.
And the malware analysis part, it wasn't very technical. I didn't
Hmm.
have to, pick up a malicious binary used by these hackers and reverse engineer it. I didn't have to do that because I was doing some threat hunting work. I'm interested in that field, and it's like a spy works, but digital, in the
Yeah.
cyber realm, not in real life. So I basically had access to one of their groups, and I can't say which platform, but
Hmm.
obviously I had access. I could read their messages. I could read what they were talking about, what they were creating, and I replicated everything that they were talking about or
Okay.
creating. Now, I'm not sure if they really created all those 10 behavioral analysis tactics
Hmm.
on their own. It could be someone that helped them,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. So I just read their messages. I extracted this information from it, and then I replicated it. I shared it on my blog because I wanted other threat hunters to
Yeah. Spread awareness,
flag
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, spread awareness about it.
So, what is the purpose of collecting this kind of data, like this user data? Like, what benefit is there from the attacker's point of view? Because like there's like keyloggers and it's tracking whether or not there's like a person at the computer at the time and things like that. So like, what is the purpose of that?
At first, when I saw this, some of these tactics are maybe overkill
Hmm.
because they may not be required. For example, the keylogging aspect that They keep logging the keys to see if the user, I think, types anything, like how much activity is on the keyboard for XYZ amount of minutes.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think those are required, but I think they just implemented those behavioral analysis tactics to
Okay.
understand if the user is going to be active. Now,
Hmm.
when malware researchers or forensics experts perform analysis on a piece of malware, they are not actively typing on the keyboard, right? They're
Hmm.
just running tools and things like that. So those kind of tactics are gonna be detected because if the malware doesn't see any type of typing or notice any type of typing,
Oh, so it's like an
then it's going
evasion.
to self-destruct. Yeah.
Okay, I see now. So it's evasion tactics. I
Yeah,
didn't realize.
evasion.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense to me now. Do you have any other comments on that?
Well, not a lot. I
Hmm.
think that's it. But if you're interested in any sort of behavioral analysis that was covered there,
Hmm.
I could replicate it. For example, I could teach you how to, recreate that behavior for forensics if you ever need it.
Okay. Well, I mean, if we ever have time later, or if we do another interview, I'd be interested in doing something like that for sure. Um,
All right.
I was looking into your open source projects and or like some of the open source projects that you have done in the past, and so one of them is called Zero Day F, which is like a code analysis tool for identifying vulnerabilities. And my question was just, how is it different from any other AI, like a code assistant, basically? So like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. How does it help identify these vulnerabilities in code that another AI doesn't?
It's a bit different because
Hmm.
ever since the latest update that I did about 2 weeks ago, I added support for other AI systems and also for SimGrep, which is a tool that performs static analysis on code and
Okay.
finds which vulnerable functions are being used.
Okay.
For example, some functions are dangerous. If you're taking input from the user and executing that with Python command like exec, which stands for execution,
Hmm.
then that's going to be flagged as something that's malicious. Now, you said you asked a good thing. How is it different from other tools?
Yeah.
And the difference is that I'm not creating a scanner from scratch. I'm not, you know, creating LLVM from scratch or SimGraph from scratch. I'm just building on top of these already built tools.
I see.
SimGraph already exists. And so there are other AI platforms that exist, and each of them work differently. Some of them are free, some of them require payment. And what's interesting is the ability that I've added for users to find the code behind an endpoint. For example, if you are visiting a website, there's an endpoint called login.php.
Hmm.
Now, traditionally speaking, you have to find the code behind this endpoint to be able to test it to see how it works and find vulnerabilities. Now, ZeroDev automates this entire process by giving you a proxy. So you will not need to, search the whole source code for this endpoint and see where it's defined and everything like that,
Hmm.
because ZeroDev will capture your requests from your browser and then map them to the backend code and the templates and all the API functions that that page uses.
Okay.
And then it performs vulnerability analysis with any AI of your choice. It can find anything you ask the AI to find, and it also uses SimGrep.
I see. So it's like all integrated together in something that's like nicely packaged, I guess. That's actually very useful. So yeah, I'll look into that further. Mm.
Sure.
Um.
It's something I created out of necessity because
Mhm.
it doesn't There aren't many solutions like it. It doesn't, I think, exist. So I just combined AI with SimGrep with a proxy tool.
Yeah.
And in a future update that I'll be releasing, there will be no need for proxy at all, because there's a command that I can give people if they run their web app on debug mode. They just have to execute that command, copy paste its output to 0 def, and get an entire map of the application for free.
Mm. This seems like really useful for people finding vulnerabilities in their web apps, and I think like getting that like I guess just like that like bottom of the barrel type of like vulnerabilities that they might miss when doing like a basic development cycle.
Yeah, well, it has been useful for me because I have been able to find vulnerabilities with it.
Mhm.
This is the methodology that I had to create because it didn't exist. It was my methodology for finding vulnerabilities on open source web apps, and I thought, hey,
Yeah.
why shouldn't I automate this? If I automate it, I'll be able to find vulnerabilities much faster.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. There's also your other project called Subwatch, and so that's
Oh
a
yeah,
subdomain scanner that
yeah,
just
that's a
saves results.
subdomain scanner, but it's more of an expired project. I'm
Okay.
not actively maintaining it, but it was a project that could be used for subdomain analysis, subdomain tracking. You could find live websites,
Hmm.
scan a huge list of websites, determine which ones are live, and then perform subdomain takeover on all of them.
Okay.
And that project is now kind of discontinued because I'm not planning to work on it. The size of the application was very large. It was coded with
Okay.
Electron JS. It's a cross-platform desktop development application development framework for desktop.
Yeah. And was it getting too big, too slow kind of thing?
Yeah, it was getting too big, too complex, and I don't
Okay.
think Electron should be used for anything that complex.
Yeah.
I think this could be just a simple Python Flask web app
Hmm.
deployed with Docker. That would be the easiest, most efficient way.
Okay. So if you were ever to like revisit it, you would build it in a different way. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I think that's about everything that I had for questions. If you want to go into the demonstration now, um, yeah, that'd be lovely. So
All right.
what are you going to be demonstrating for us today?
Uh, well, for starters, I'm gonna go through a set of resources, communities, tools, mentorship that I'm
Okay.
gonna talk about. I think those are gonna be quite important. And then there is CV hunting guide for beginners, choosing a target, finding a target, and setting up the web app and testing the web app.
Okay.
So those are the basics, the very basics of how people can get started in CV hunting, and that's what I want to teach.
All right. Yeah. I'm ready to learn because I also need to learn this. So whenever you're ready to share your screen, just go ahead.
A few moments later.
So these are the resources that I want to talk about. These are all you need. You don't need all of it, but some of the most valuable ones that I could recommend for CV hunting is Sportswagger Academy, Tyler Ramsey's YouTube channel, Offensive Bug Bounty Hunter by Vikash Chowdhury, if I'm saying their name correctly.
Hmm.
I think these three are all you need, but if you if you're going through coursework of CPTS or CBBH,
Hmm.
that would be great. And then there is a microblog Flask course. This is a course that anyone can find if you just search it here, microblog course. I think the developer is Miguel, and he basically teach you how to build and deploy your first Flask app.
Okay.
And the reason that I want people to learn this is because you will get a basic understanding of how websites work, how to design them, how databases work,
Yeah.
and this is what got me started. So I created my own website, right? I just created everything in Flask, and I used AI for design and everything like that.
Hmm.
But this course will teach you everything you need to know to build your own website like I did and understand other websites.
And so just to like enumerate on that a little bit is the better you understand on like or how to build web applications, the better you'll be able to attack it, and the easier it'll be to find CVEs and vulnerabilities in other web applications because you know what you're looking for because you've built it before, right? It makes it easier for you.
Yeah, it makes it easier because at the end of the day, most applications are based on a simple concept called CRUD or CRUD. It stands for create, read, update, delete. So you create blogs, you read blogs, you update blogs or modify them, and then you delete them.
Yeah.
Those four things happen in literally almost every web application I have seen. So you can do that in Flask. You can do it on Laravel, which is a PHP framework. You can do it on Ruby on Rails. You can do it on any other language or framework as well. So the concepts are the same. The language differs, but if you understand how one language handles it, then you understand them all.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's something that people get too caught up on is the difference in like languages and which framework to use, and it really doesn't matter at the end of the day which like what you're using. It's you're always gonna have to have a nuance and some kind of understanding of what you need, right? So everybody needs a different tool for a different reason, and if you have that understanding, then you can choose what you want, right? But at the end of the day, if you have an understanding of the basics and what you're doing, then you're good, right? Like you'll be able to apply it to other languages and other frameworks, right?
Oh yeah, you just need the basics and then you're good to go. But I must emphasize that this tutorial alone is just it's just a kickstart. It doesn't teach you everything about databases. It doesn't teach you everything about farms or designing because Miguel uses Bootstrap 5 and also Flask forms, or they're called WTF forms, and Flask WTF. Yeah. So he uses all of them to automate the process of creating forms because it's a tedious process, and if you do it manually, like I have for my own websites, then you can. But so he teach you his own methodology. You will see a different methodology being used on a real world web app. And then that will confuse you if you don't understand how many different ways a web app can be created.
Okay.
So I think we could discuss communities because some people really need to communicate and talk with others to find something or do something. I mean, some people love communication, you know?
Being able to collaborate is very important for any form of work, right? So
Yeah, it's important and it helps a lot. So some of the best minds that I've worked with and found were on Hack the Box official server and Hack Smarter server. These two are the only Discord servers that I can recommend because you can actually find other researchers and like-minded people here.
Yeah, I back that as well.
Yeah. So then there are tools that I think are important if you're getting started. Burp Suite is important. Skill Map, yeah. Python, PowerShell, these are programming language, but also tools. So they're important as well. And then there's AI. So if you're not going to use AI, that's totally fine. But you should know that I automate most of my work with AI. So if you want to, you know, make everything work faster and better, try to use any of these: Grok 3 AI, ChatGPT, Cloud, Sonnet 3.7 and 3.5. They are the best AIs you can get and use them. And then there's mentorship. I do offer this for free. I don't charge. So for anyone who's interested in bug hunting or getting their first CVE, I offer mentorship in the following format. We test the same target together, any web app. For example, this right here, this is a web app. We can test something like this together. And if I find vulnerabilities, I can tell you what I found, but not where I found it. This way, you can test the web app's functionality to understand how it works and identify the same vulnerability. or we both test the same target at the same time. If either of us find any vulnerabilities on our own with no help from the other, we submit a singular report. And if either of us collaborate on a vulnerability, for example, escalate accesses to account takeover, then we submit a joint report with both of our names. So both people get credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't have to pay me for mentorship, but priority will be given to those who make donations to homeless shelters and food banks in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
These places are built to help low-income Canadians, and I think this is the same payment structure that's built in Hack Smarter. They don't ask you to pay them directly. They just ask you to make a donation to any charity, and then you can hire them. I think you can
Well, you can. They have
start.
their mentorship thing where.
Yeah, mentorship, coaching. They offer those services in exchange for donations, and
Or yeah.
for me, that's a similar structure that I want to follow.
Yeah.
And then I want beginners in the field to know that I was once like them. I asked lots of stupid questions when I could just Google them because I was lazy. And I understand that sometimes it becomes frustrating to learn, especially without support. So I'm here to help, and I don't judge anyone. And I don't hold any type of political views or prejudice against any group. So I would help people of any nationality or ethnicity without discrimination against race, color, gender, or beliefs.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, getting like younger people involved, as well as spreading a good message and making sure to help out people wherever you need to with donations and things like that. It's all very good. What is your opinion on like how to get the younger generation and people that are maybe not that interested in cybersecurity? There's a lot of people that I know that are in computer science and computer engineering and really in like all of these like technical fields that they don't have a great back, or like they don't have that security background. They haven't like gotten interested in that kind of thing because they think it's basically just log analysis. They don't see that there is another element to it, which is the red teaming and pen testing and doing these types of things, and so they think it's very boring. And I feel like that is one area where we can like help people understand better or communicate better. Like, hey, there's more to it than just blue team, more to it than just log analysis, more to it than just securing just a web application. It's also testing that web application. One of the best ways to secure any application, right, is by testing its strength, right? And that's what we try and do here with finding CVEs and those types of things. And so, what is your opinion on how to get younger people into cybersecurity?
Well, I agree with your emphasis on getting people interested in cybersecurity and in actual practical cybersecurity, not just log analysis and things like that. Because when a cyber attack hits your organization, most of those checkpoints, or I call them checkboxes, most of those compliance checkboxes required by security professionals and most organizations, they become useless because at a time when your organization is under a ransomware attack and your data has been stolen and you have no idea how, then at those points you would wish that you had conducted a red team assessment or a penetration testing every month or every week at least. If you're a bank or a critical organization, you must conduct them continuously. And I know that people don't really care until a big vulnerability, a big cyber attack hits them, and then they will start caring, which will be too late. So I think that we could bring awareness, and I think a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are bringing awareness to malware research, malware development, dangers of malware, how to develop it, and how to defend against it. And then people get angry, like, why are you teaching how to develop malware? That's legal. Well, if we don't understand malware, we cannot protect against it. If people don't understand how ransomware works, how are they supposed to protect against it?
Yeah.
So I think those things are important, but we cannot force people. I think we are gonna try to get them interested.
Yeah.
But then there is a lot of people out there who don't want to leave their, their shell that they have created for themselves. Some people just don't care about cybersecurity. I have come to accept that there are different individuals among
Yeah.
us. They don't care.
Well, I think it's mainly just like it is like in part it's negligence, in part it's just simply just ease of use and wanting to be able to do things without having to think about all the repercussions of what could happen, right? And so I can understand. I have sympathy in that regard because I can see why, as a developer or someone who wants to just simply do things, that you don't want to invest in security because it's an afterthought, right? But that's like the main issue. Is like if you secure yourself in the beginning, you're not going to have as many problems down the line. And if you do have problems, you'll know how to take care of them, right? So if you do have a security issue, you're going to know how to deal with it. And normally, like people, again, like they just don't invest in it simply because they want to develop faster, right? Because all we think about is like money and like not saving money in the future, but rather making money right now, right? So uh, it's tough.
Yeah, it's different. So if people don't want to deal with security themselves, then they just need to hire someone else to do it for them, which
Mm-hmm.
is where people like me come in. So some people, especially developers that I've worked with, developers that I've reported vulnerabilities to, they don't like fixing their vulnerabilities. It's a fact. There are several vulnerabilities that I've reported where developers just don't want to fix something because the vulnerability only requires administrator privilege. Now, as we see more and more, mostly in CTFs and internal networks, people don't use a strong passwords. So if you get password for a web app that actually has a vulnerability where you can get shell access on a server with just admin access, then that's actually privilege escalation. You shouldn't be able to do that without any type of warning. For example, WordPress allows you to change PHP files, but it also gives you warning that if you change this XYZ file, it might compromise your servers. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some web apps, they don't do that. So this is a very dangerous thing to do, allowing everyone, the developers, to make change to PHP files and not giving them a warning will
Yeah.
allow attackers to compromise the entire server. And if it's a shared hosting, then every other website or system in that shared hosting will be compromised.
Yeah. It really just it starts to spread from just like one area, right? If you can get
Yeah.
a reverse shell from there, you can spread throughout the entire network, and so it causes a lot of problems if you don't care like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it happens more than you think. That's why the budget, I think, for cyber attacks and the loss of money for cyber attacks just keeps increasing.
Hmm.
Like there's no decreasing inside. It's just the attackers keep getting better. The attacks are keeping, are happening more often,
Yeah.
and there is no cybersecurity in sight most of the time. I mean, biggest organizations in the world have now been hacked at least once.
Hmm.
So I think it's a cultural thing. We need, like you said, get people interested in cybersecurity because it's becoming a part of life now.
Yeah.
Security is just like physical security.
Yeah. I think it is like a lot more. It's going to be some of the most important things that you can do, especially for the future, is just investing in education in cybersecurity. Because your operational security, the ability to just do things in a secure manner, just having a mindset in that way is really invaluable. Because there's a whole chain, right, of areas where there could be mistakes, and if there's even one mistake, the you're gonna have vulnerabilities like this, and if there's one mistake in that chain, it could break the whole process, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right. I agree with you. That's exactly how to think about it.
Anyways, you want to go ahead and do the demonstration now?
Yeah, I want to do the demonstration, but
Oh, okay.
first I have to talk about choosing a target
Okay.
because I think a lot of people get stuck in this. I have seen people ask this question over and over again, like when they are
Mhm.
first getting started with bug bounty hunting. They ask, okay, what target do I choose? And maybe in the bug hunting, bug bounty scene is different, but in open source, it's quite easy to choose a target, and I can show you all the different ways here to choose a target. This is not a fluff guide, not a bullshit guide where I just go over theory. I'm not
Mhm.
talking theory. Everything I say, I'll just show it to you on my browser
Mhm.
and show how it's done. So let's get started with choosing a target. So the first thing you have to consider when choosing a target is the impact. For example, this is VVWeb, right?
Mhm.
How many people are using it, and does that change anything? Because if VVWeb is used only by let's say 1,000 people, that might be worth reporting because if 1,000 websites are using VVWeb, that means at least given that one website has at least 100 visitors, that would be, I think, over 100,000 visitors for that one software. Now, how to check that? You can check the impact or the number of online websites that are using CMS using builtwith.com. You can do this for frameworks, you can do this for widgets, you can do this for whatever you want to do. But here is how you do it. Just write VVWeb, enter, and then choose it. You can see that 163 websites are using it.
Mhm.
Some of them, I think only one of them is in Canada, but you can see the number of countries that are using it. You can see the sectors that are using it.
And
And you
so,
can see
how many
you can
users are there? Does it
oh
tell you or?
uh it doesn't tell you the users, but
Mhm.
there is something else you could do. You could just see the traffic for all of these websites, but there is no
Okay.
traffic for this website, for example. It doesn't show you the traffic.
Okay.
But in my case, and in case of Mission Cyber Sentinel, we said, okay, maybe if we cannot find the visitors for every website, at least we can get an estimation. For example, 100 users for every website is a very small estimation. Most websites have a few hundred
Yeah.
users. So we said if at least 100 people are using VVWeb, then that would be 100 multiplied by 100, which I think becomes 10,000. So that would be 10,000 people affected by a vulnerability in VVWeb. So this is how you choose a target based
Mhm.
on impact, but there are other targets as well, some of them that are old but are not active. So, for example, if we search on GitHub,
Yeah, I was just about to say this. Like, one of the ways that I actually search is simply by looking at their GitHub and looking at like the stars. Obviously, it's just an approximation. Not the amount of stars that a GitHub repo has doesn't correlate to the amount of users or the amount of people who actually use the CMS. But I was looking into VV Web, and the framework actually has quite a lot of traffic, whereas the CMS is less so. But the JavaScript library, I guess, that's about or that it uses uh, actually has a lot of people who use it as well. So it's interesting. Um, yeah.
yeah, there's that, and there's also forks. So when a
Yeah.
repository is forked, someone can make changes and update it or push new features to a to an already created project. It's basically like copying a project. So these are topics, and I have searched a web app. So let's, for example, browse this. I think it's now archived, and it was updated 17 years ago. So there is a chance of you finding a vulnerability here. The server also says not found. There's a lot of chance that you would find a vulnerability in here. I think it's a static website with some PHP on it. But anyways, here's a proxy code.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's gonna be vulnerable, but it might be.
But
And you can find
it wouldn't
yeah.
be useful because nobody uses it, right?
Yeah, nobody uses it. It's not active, but there's also something else. Sometimes you might come across something like this, that one or two organization uses them, but those organizations are big. For example, if something like this is used by a bank and it's not updated in 17 years, then it's worth exploiting, because most of the time these things are used internally. Yeah. And people don't care about them. There was a target that I think I had found. I don't know if it was in Canada or United States, but it was being used by the government of that country. I think this was it. Irida project, or Irida project. I don't know how to spell it, how to say it. I mean, but yeah, this is being used actively by all of these universities and public health agency of Canada.
Yeah.
But if you look at their GitHub, it doesn't have a lot of stars. It doesn't have a lot of forks.
But it's still a part of major infrastructure in certain governments and organizations. I see.
Okay. It is still being used, and a lot of big organizations in Canada are using it. I'm not, I think, able to find it, or well, I'm not sure, but yeah. From the last time I've seen it, Irida wasn't very active, but it's being used. So that's another way to see impact by how many big users are using it. And then if a target is self-hosted, which Easy Bookkeeping was a self-hosted target because it was for bookkeeping. Bookkeeping isn't something that you expose to the internet. And the impact is calculated based on the number of installations. So Easy Bookkeeping didn't have a beacon to track how many people installed their software.
Okay.
But I think at least 100 people did, based on what I talked with their maintainer. So that's the number that I used. And I think here's it. I think it has 31,000 commits. But if you look at the repository, it doesn't have a lot of forks, just 30 and 40 stars. To anyone looking at something like this, they might say, well, it can have vulnerabilities because there's not a lot of activity beyond 31,000 commits, right?
Yeah.
And then there are issues, which is another way of tracking how active a software is. And if you can see these issues and see if anyone is reporting them, then that would be a good thing, because if maintainers are actively fixing bugs or vulnerabilities, then that's a good sign that this project is active. So this is another way of seeing how active a target is. And you can always search the name of the target on builtwith.com to find how many people are using it. Then there is finding targets that you can find on GitHub and Docker Hub. So Docker Hub is interesting because you can just start any application you want with inside the Docker container, and it is quite easy because you don't have to install anything. You don't have to set up an entire server. or anything like that, and you just need Docker or Docker Compose to, for example, start this application, set it up, deploy it, and use it. So you don't need to set up a server, and I think that's what scares most people, because most people don't want to set up MySQL, Apache, PHP, all the things that you
they don't
need
want to do all
for.
the back end stuff.
Yeah, they don't want to do the back end stuff. They just want the application, and they can do it with copy pasting something like this. They will be able to set up a web app in just a minute and get on testing it.
Yeah.
And the reason that I showed these parameters is because you can just change the number here from 28 to 20 and keep on browsing all the older, less visible Docker containers and find vulnerabilities on them. Because I think originally you only are allowed to search 20 pages, but if you change this parameter, you will be able to, visit more Dockers. Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, it happens. So I think I already covered GitHub topics. But there's something else that I want to say about GitHub topics. Is that you can change this topic. Okay, if you go to, for example, not 0xHamy, but if you go here, you will be able to see all the tags. I think we call them tags, but on GitHub it's called topics. So if you click any of these, it will bring up other repositories for you. This is a repository itself, and it will bring other repositories that use these topics.
Okay.
So let's go e-commerce. Let's go shopping cart, blogging, web application, content management system. And you can see thousands of repositories that you could target next. And you could just come down here, see Cilius, whatever it's called. It's written in PHP. You can get started on hacking this. There is nothing special about Cilius. You could also visit their website. Sometimes when you visit websites, they have a free demo like this that you can try. I think they also gave you the admin demo, shop demo. I could just try this now to show people how easy it is. And this is exactly what I do. So I think it's just Cilius. I'm a bit lazy, so I have to copy paste everything. Well, yeah, this is the backend that you can get an idea of how everything works and then get started on hacking it. Then there's shopping cart, blogging. They're all the same. You just find
you just gotta pick something, right? You gotta pick something. I think one thing that people get caught up on is that they get flustered because there's so many applications out there. They don't know which one to pick. They want someone to hold their hand and tell them which one to pick. But at the end of the day, you have to just pick something and then just try and do some tests, see if you can find a vulnerability. If you can't find something, try it. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say try harder, but try smarter, I guess.
Yeah, like hack smarter says try smarter. Hack smarter.
Hack smarter. Yes. So pick something and get to it. Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree with your mindset and what you're saying. Sometimes it's possible that people won't be able to find vulnerabilities. There were times that I haven't been able to find a vulnerability, or there was a crazy finding that I found. I reported that. I felt a little bad about it because there was a functionality that allowed admins to create HTML pages. It was intended for every admin to create HTML page.
Yeah.
And I was just being an idiot. I didn't find anything on the web app, and I was like, okay, let's see if we can execute JavaScript on HTML page, and I was able to do it because it was the intended functionality.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an issue because admins were allowed to modify HTML, and so it wasn't a vulnerability. It was just, in my point of view, a stupid finding. I wasn't able to find anything, and the one thing that I found was an intended functionality, and that happens. I don't want people to feel rejected and down by it. Of course, you're gonna feel down by it for a while, but then you have to get back up because there's lots of targets to test.
Yeah, if you can't find something on one CMS or one application, you just go to the next one, right? And eventually you're going to find something. It's really about persistence. That's a big thing in cybersecurity. That's really what that's a make or break when it comes to really anything in cybersecurity. And I think that's one part where CTFs actually might help a little bit in real world, is just building that type of persistence and knowing that you can get something done uh, in a shorter time frame, right? But you're gonna have however much time that you want to spend on this application, or whatever application you're testing, but you have to limit yourself at least to some degree. So having an idea of like, okay, I want to spend X amount of time doing this, or like testing this application, and then if I don't find anything within a week or so, let me just move on to something else, because you're really not trying to, just you're not trying to find some crazy 0 day like here. You're just trying to make sure that the applications are secure from these kind of like low hanging fruit, but at least when you're starting out, right? That's what you want to do, right? So
Yeah, of course. Low hanging fruits is where we all started. I mean, brute force vulnerabilities that I had found, they were low hanging because there were no protection, nothing at all.
Yeah.
But they were still vulnerabilities. I think they fall under category of CWE 3705 or something like that. They stand for rate limit vulnerabilities.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, MITRE will assign you a CV for a brute force. But nowadays, I don't report brute force at all because it doesn't matter. But if you're just getting started, brute force, which is a low hanging fruit, is exactly something you need to find.
Mhm. It is difficult to speak. Hey everybody, this is the end of the second episode of the Schlopshow. I'm going to be cutting it short a little bit because the next portion is a demonstration and that's more of a visual experience. And so I wanted to split that up. I wanted to thank my guest Hamy for expounding his knowledge on CVEs and penetration testing in general. I know it's helpful for a lot of people. Anyways, I hope you understand, and thanks for listening.